it was only 16 years ago that Sicilian football was at its peak. In your opinion, the days of Palermo, Messina and Catania all in Serie A at the same time, can you see that coming at any stage?
Well, for Palermo, I mean, they're the only club at the moment that I can see pushing for Serie A. It all depends also what happens in the off-season here. If the takeover deal happens with the Football City Group, and if that happens, then I think Palermo, the road to Serie A will immediately accelerate and propel them back to the top flight in no time. As far as Messina goes, they're on the brink of another bankruptcy. And for Catania, well, they're bankrupt. I haven't even had official news yet whether they're going to restart in Serie D.
Yeah, they failed to find a buyer or someone to rescue Catania.
It is. It is so much history. And that's one thing they always had against the Palermitani, that Catania never had been bankrupt. It's going to be a very difficult path for the Rossoneri. They are looking at Jari in Serie D. I hope they don't overtake that and say, well, we'll create a Phoenix club off that, because it would be such a shame for Jari and the project that they've got going on.
And Jari is in Serie D at the moment. I think they finished down towards the bottom of the table, around 14th or so, or 15th in Serie D Girone E. Sicily finally has a team in one of the top two divisions. What does that mean for fans from the region, especially around the world?
It's really good for the Palermitani, at least, because let's be frank, I mean, Serie B to Serie C. Serie C, there's so many teams. I think it's overloaded. I think it should only be just one group in the league, to tell you the truth. For Palermo and the Palermitani, it's huge to be in Serie B. You're going to be playing against teams like Parma, Venezia, Genoa, Cagliari. It's even good for my Sicilian football because, it's going to get me. It's a higher platform, which is more.
It's a huge boost for at Sicilian Calcio on Twitter for everyone listening.
In 2006-07 season in Serie A, Sicily had three teams: Palermo, Catania, Messina. Palermo is in the right direction. Let's hope others follow suit.
You follow Sicilian clubs closer than most. After Trapani's demise, is there another club from Sicily that looks as though they could push for promotion, even from a Serie D perspective? Catania stopped playing. Trapani are back.
Trapani, they got promoted in 2019 from Serie C to Serie B.
And that was under Vincenzo Italiano?
Yes, under Vincenzo Italiano. They beat Catania in the semis, and then they took on Piacenza in the final, and they beat them. It was really good for Trapani, and from there on they just went downhill, which was a shame.
Such a shame for Trapani. Vincenzo Italiano moved on. They brought in Fabrizio Castori. Trapani is the 8th largest Sicilian city, 88th in Italy with 70,000 people. That was the last club we've seen in Serie B back in that 2019-20 season under Castori. And they had Mamadou Koulibaly, Stefan Stromberg, Alessandro Bongiorno and Balenzola, Jonathan Biabiani, the ex-Parma and Inter man, Marco Cannesecchi, who's the goalkeeper currently at Cremonese, and Andrea Colpani of Monza. We're going to see them in Serie A more than likely next season.
Yes.
So Trapani was the number one Sicilian club.
Yeah.
Palermo is back. Now, Trapani, as I said, is the 8th largest Sicilian city and 88th in Italy. Catania is 10th in Italy, with just under 300,000 people. Messina is 14th with 243,000 people. Obviously, Palermo is the 5th largest with just around 700,000. Those largest cities were struggling at a time when the 88th largest city in Italy, Trapani, was the only Sicilian representation. Throughout the last few years, you've been following these clubs more than anyone else. Tell us about your passion for promoting Sicilian football clubs. Are there one or two in particular that you support?
Obviously, with the family coming from the province of Catania, obviously I go for Catania as well, Calcio Catania. At the moment, it's a bit of a hiatus with the club, so we'll see what happens if there's a new Phoenix club. And I've been doing some concepts of logo designs, hopefully some jersey designs, and just try and get it out there on Instagram and that, and share it with the people in Catania and see what happens. But
yeah, you never know who's going to see it.
Yeah, I just hope they at least can field a team and have a club this season. If it's not going to be in Serie D, if it's going to be in Eccellenza, then so be it. They've played from Eccellenza before, Catania, at one point. Atletico Catania, which is another club, also came into a little rise, and they were in Serie C for a moment. That club now is basically gone to, I think, the 6th or 7th division as well. So in terms of my passion for Sicilian football, I thought that Sicilian teams was very undercovered among Italian football media, the English-Italian football media perspective as well. So
there's a huge void to be filled there, and that's what we're trying to do. That's what you're trying to do, especially for Sicilian football. And we need as many people to support as many podcasters and people that are promoting football of any kind of Italian origin on platforms such as Twitter and Instagram. It's a testament to what your intentions are as well. You're not just promoting your favorite teams, you're promoting a whole region.
Sicilian football goes right from, which Palermo will be in Serie B now, it goes right down to the Eccellenza Promozione, Prima Categoria 2 sometimes. Just promote it every province as well, because, Ragusa are another one that got promoted from Eccellenza to Serie D, and they could probably try and get Serie C.
Yeah, well, they're from the southern part of Sicily, along with teams like Licata, who finished 9th in Serie D Girone I this season. Città di Sant'Agata from the north coast of Sicily, they finished 5th, the most successful Sicilian side behind Acciariale.
They've signed Francesco Lodi. They got this really good striker, Giuseppe Savonarola. They've been really trying to push for that Serie C promotion, but this season, Gelbison, which was in their group.
Gelbison, they're from Campania.
Campania, yeah. So they beat them to it. They had a fantastic season.
And also, I think Acciariale were knocked out by Cavese 2-0 in the playoffs, and that's where they came undone. But finishing 4th in that Girone of Serie D was a fairly good performance. I don't know, for those listeners, how far back you go. I think Acciariale has played in Serie B once or twice before. Città di Sant'Agata never, but finished 5th. Paternò in 7th, which is a town just outside of Catania. Also, Biancavilla might be the closest team to Catania in 19th. FC Messina at the bottom after their bankruptcy. So Acciariale was the best placed Sicilian side in Serie D. They ended up getting knocked out by Cavese 2-0 in the playoffs. The Serie D playoff final it will be Recatanese for Marche and Giuliano in the Serie D playoff final. Giuliano is a club from Campania. They beat San Giuliano City from southeast Milan, from the outskirts there, 2-1 away. Recatanese, they defeated Novara, former Serie A side from 2011 and 12. They're from Piemonte. So we're going to see Recatanese and Giuliano in the Serie D playoff final, where all Sicilian clubs are aspiring to get back into the 3rd division. It was only 16 years ago that Sicilian football was at its peak. In the 2005-06 season, Palermo finished in 5th, the best result in the club's history. They just fell short of Champions League qualification by a 2-point margin. Through Palermo, Messina and Catania, the island boasted 3 teams in the Italian top flight during the 2006-07 season for the first time. We fast forward 15 years or so. Messina has finished 14th in their Serie C group of Girone C, or Group C. They have players at the moment such as Federico Piovacari, 37-year-old former Serie B top scorer with Cittadella, former Sampman, who even won a Romanian title and played Champions League with Steaua Bucharest. He also had a spell in Australia with Western Sydney Wanderers, and he's there now along with Andrea Adorante on loan from Parma. 8 goals for Adorante, the leading scorer for Messina. 2 for Piovacari as a backup striker. Didn't play too many games, around about a dozen for the season. And there's some promising signs with Romanian midfielder Marginian and Max Celic and Thiago Concalves at the back. You've been following Messina this season, Anthony. What are your thoughts?
they had such a bad start at the season and they were just dead last at one point. It looked like they were really going nowhere. They went through several coaches. Late on in the season, they went on this fantastic run. They survived relegation. Like you mentioned, Adorante, Goncalves, they really stepped up towards the back end. And Iborama Balde, the brother of Keita Balde, he had a good season. He got 3 goals, but he was also a good contributing factor. There was another player, Gabriele Morelli, at the backs. He had a good season with them as well. Before the season started, they were really aiming to at least get in the playoffs because up until position 10, you still qualify for the playoffs. Yeah, they just couldn't manage it. They were bang on average.
And therefore finishing further down the table in 14th. However, they were just promoted from Serie D, I believe.
Yes, they won the previous season in Serie D Group I. They just beat FC Messina to it. But HR Messina was really great that they stepped up. You know, they came back to Serie C. Now with all the ownership issues and that, it looks, highly unlikely they're going to be in Serie C. And who knows if they're going to be able to go to Serie D if they go bankrupt. It's just a shame to see so many of these clubs, they get promoted and then they just fall right into bankruptcy.
Seems to be a vicious cycle and a common denominator for a lot of these Sicilian clubs that perhaps are trying but then just falling short. Just for listeners out there who don't know, Serie D is an amateur league to step up from Serie D to Serie C, Lega Pro. It's called Lega Pro because it's the league where the clubs turn professional. The investment has to come in, sponsors have to come in, and it needs to drive them. Clubs get in debt fairly easily just trying to keep their head above water. For a lot of these clubs, they're finding it very difficult to survive.
Remember Sigula Leonzio? They were a team from Lentini. It's part of Siragusa, but right on the border with Catania. And they were punching above their weight, honestly. A very small club. They made it all the way, I think, from the 7th or 6th tier right to Serie C. And they were in there for a good spell. They even made it to the Serie C playoffs at one time. So, it shows that you can do it.